Seeking English, IELTS, Practice Test 1, Reading Passage 1, Odonata, Questions 1 through 6. I'm often asked if it is a better strategy to read the passage first or to read the questions first, and that depends on how quickly you read. How quickly you read is not a reliable indicator of your command of the language or your intelligence or any of those things. It's partly neurological. For example, I read very thoroughly, but I also read very slowly, and there are people who read very quickly and they miss a lot. And trying to do things the other way, it mostly does not work. It's better to lean into whatever your natural tendency is. If you are a slow reader, you may want to read the questions first just to have time. That said, I read slightly more slowly than an average native English speaker. I see every error. But I still have time to read everything twice in simulations as a rule. Most of these tests are designed so that if you read at half the speed of a native English speaker, you still should be able to read everything about twice. Deliberating over the questions is what's going to eat up your time. I think I'm maybe discussing this too much. I will say an advantage of a possible advantage of reading the questions first is that then when you go to the reading passage, you know what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're more likely to be distracted by words that you don't know. Again, it depends on you, though. It's a decision that you have to make. You could try it both ways in a simulator to see, try the way that feels natural first, and then if that doesn't work, you switch the strategy to see whether it goes any better on the second simulator. It's a thing that ultimately you're going to have to decide as a strategy before you go to take the real test. But it depends on your personal experience interacting with the simulator. So for time purposes, I'm going to assume that you already read the passage once and that your vocabulary was large enough to just scan by words that are not going to affect any of your answers. And that's a major advantage of vocabulary study. It makes it easier to ignore words more quickly that are not going to affect your answers instead of trying to figure out whether they matter. I know it sounds cynical, but it's true. So on to the questions. Question 1. I'm sorry, I'm doing this wrong. We're supposed to mark A if it is a fact about dragonflies, B if it is a fact about damselflies, and C if it is a fact about both dragonflies and damselflies. You'll notice there's not an option for neither. So whatever the statement is, it's going to apply either to one of these animals or it's going to apply to both of these animals. This matters because it helps you more quickly make sense of some of the sentences in the passage. With number 1, it says they have saw-like jaws. Now, you know, it's a practice test. If you control F for saw-like, I think you're not going to find it. That's bad, but you can get around it if you're clever. Okay, we'll go to the first part there. It is not certain in every case that the questions will chronologically reflect the same order, will come in the same order that the answers come in the passage. It is usually true, or it is mostly true. So if it doesn't happen that way, don't be shocked. But it's a pretty good bet to go into the process, assuming that the answers will come up in the passage in the same order that the questions come up later, at least in kind of in blocks. Okay. So it says first one was the saw-like jaws. Odonata is the order of insects that includes dragonflies and damselflies. To the human eye, the shining colors and delicate-looking wings make them beautiful creatures to behold. In the natural world, however, they are fearsome predators. Dragonflies and damselflies get their name from the powerful serrated jaws that they use to tear apart their prey. The word odonata means toothed jaw, meaning for insects to have teeth or tooth-like structures is unusual. They look like they have saws. Serrated means having teeth like on a saw. Okay, so that's the first answer. It applies to both of them, or if it applies to either of them, it applies to both of them. No distinction is made between them, so even if you didn't understand it perfectly, the answer has to be C, because it describes at least one of them and doesn't exclude anything. complicated explanation. Okay. Going on, question 2. They hold their wings on their backs while resting. It says, dragonflies and damselflies are often confused with each other because they are very similar. Close observation reveals the differences between them. The obvious difference is the way they hold their wings while at rest. So right away, you should expect that the answer is not going to be C. Really? Yes, because it says that there's a difference. Okay. Dragonflies hold their wings out to the side, while damselflies fold their wings back. Okay, out to the side versus back. The answer has to be damselflies. Okay, is letter B. Good. Number 3, their eyes have a gap between them. A gap is a visible space. Okay. Let me go. Dragonflies have very large eyes that seem to cover the entire face because they are so close together that they touch each other, meaning there's no gap. Damselflies' eyes are smaller and there's a space between them. So they've clearly described a gap, space versus no space. Damselflies have a gap. Okay, there we go. Number 4, they can be seen in fields at a distance from ponds and streams. It says, dragonflies are larger and stronger animals than damselflies and fly longer distances. So, right again, you should already be thinking that means they're going to be seen further away from where they mostly live. Thus, they can be found in woods and fields away from the water. Damselflies are not such strong flyers and are most often seen around the edges of ponds and streams, since they do not normally fly far from water. So everything there, I think, points to dragonflies flying further away from the water. Okay. Next 2 questions deal, I think, with wingspan. It says the largest species has a wingspan of 19 centimeters. Let's take a look at that. Yes, the largest odonata living today are the Hawaiian endemic dragonfly and the Central American damselfly. Each of these species having a wingspan of 19 centimeters. Each is related to the idea of both. Okay, it's a distinction that's not useful here, but each and both it's interchangeable to the point where the correct answer in this case is going to be C. Okay, 19 centimeters is the same maximum for each species, for both species. Number 6, the largest fossil has a wingspan of 75 centimeters. Okay, it says the smallest is the lilibulid dragonfly, native to East Asia, with a wingspan of just 20 millimeters. Fossils have been discovered that prove that dragonflies have been in existence for over 300 million years. The largest dragonfly fossil ever found belongs to the now extinct Meganeura moni, which lived 300 million years ago and had a wingspan of 75 centimeters. And it goes on, it says, the giant was a fearsome predator. That's the next part. That tells you 75 centimeters was the largest wingspan for fossil of apparently either of these species, and it was a dragonfly. Dragonfly. Okay. So correct answers: C, B, B, A, C, A. Okay. I hope that's what you got. If something was confusing to you, please do tell me, and I'll be happy to further explain it in the comment section.